Okay, it is 6 o'clock. We will call the meeting to order. Looks like we're missing Ted at the moment. And we have Matt on Zoom. Any changes, additions, removals to the agenda?
Martha Harrison had her grandbaby, so Kellen's gonna be reviewing as much of the zoning as possible with us.
Okay.
But other than that, everything stays the same.
Okay.
For Martha.
All right. Approval of the minutes. We have our reorganizational meeting for May 12th, and then the special meeting, which we held after on May 12th.
I would like to add to the reorganization meeting. First one, actually, Alicia, were you asked to keep it brief by someone? Keep it so brief?
No.
Okay. I would like to add everything that was said up until the time that Ted recommended, nominated Noah for chair, and I'd also like added the times I was interrupted and talked over into the minutes.
That's something you can transcribe, Alicia, from
I'll have to get it off the
the
thing.
meeting or
Yeah.
the video. So is that a motion with
Yeah, with those,
amended
I'd like to
changes?
make a motion to approve the minutes with those additions added.
Second.
Second by Ed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and then the next minutes for special meeting. Matt, I don't know if you caught it, but I think Matt's last name had two versions in that, Alicia. I could be,
You probably,
but
Yeah.
that was the only.
That's a letter.
B-E-L-L.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, yes. B-E-L-L-A-N-T-O-N-I.
A-N-T-O-N, correct.
B-E-L-L-A-N-T-O-N-I. So where was it?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So under parking, one of the preliminary minutes.
Yeah, parking under G2.
Oh, all right. We'll go back and correct it.
Just a couple.
And it was also on special meeting.
Okay, we'll fix it.
I don't mind, honestly.
Oh, I see where I did it there, yeah. Okay.
Too many vowels.
No, we're missing a consonant.
Oh, yeah.
So anything else for special meeting minutes? Their
I
motion?
was good with it. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, comments from citizens.
Hi, Kellen.
Hello. Hearing nothing, we will move on to regional future land use maps with Kellen from Mark. Thanks for being back.
Not at all. Stand up if you want. Yeah, I'm here to talk about your future land use maps again. I think you all have had access to the updated proposed village area map that was in the packet, right? Yeah, and I think I'm mostly here to answer questions and here to answer questions and or talk a little bit more about it. If we want to walk through it parcel by parcel, we can do that. I think the summary of what has spurred this is, so as you all know, Mount Ascutney has been redoing its regional plan pursuant to Act 181. and that includes the future land use mapping portion of it. We submitted our regional plan for the pre-application comments to the Land Use Review Board, and they came back and basically said, hey, you should make the Tier 1B area in Ludlow bigger. Basically looking at what we had said, as we had talked about, and said, a lot of this is actually still in the floodplain, a lot of this is in the river corridor, a lot of this has steep slopes. I don't think that this is actually doing a lot for the town. So they've encouraged us to come back and expand it a little bit. And so that's what I've done with this proposed map, is sort of stretch the village area out a little bit more. I think one thing that would be helpful, I think, to discuss with you all as Planning Commission and representatives of the town is we're kind of getting a rubber stamp here from the Land Use Review Board to say, hey, make it bigger. And as a part of that, they're asking us to sort of stretch the definitions of what a village area could or should be. And so what was laid out originally in our original understanding of what a village area could be was it's an area that's walkable to the village center, so essentially where we're at right now, and it's an area that has either water or public sewers associated with it. What the Land Use Review Board has said is, hey, you can kind of fudge that a little bit. If it's within a mile, we're going to call that walkable. They didn't say this verbatim, but this is what we're understanding. If it's within a mile, you can kind of call that walkable. If you have access to good soils that you can put a septic system in and areas where there's going to be water if you drill a well, you can call that good enough, and go from there. So that's kind of the context for this updated map. Are there any questions so far? Do we want to just start talking more about the map?
Can you just give a quick rundown of, okay, if we make this area pink, village area, what is that, how does that change from rural general? Just as far as, is it just stuff on the map and hey, we get stuff passed and land, the regional plan gets moved forward? How does it change day to day?
Good question. So the reason that we're kind of going in this as much detail as we are is because things that are designated as village center or village area in Ludlow, assuming the continued sign off of y'all's select board and trustees, will be under Tier 1B of Act 191, which basically means housing developments less than, oh God, this is the number I always forget. It's 50 units. Aaron, do you remember that off the top of your head? It's less than 50 units, right?
50 units on 10 acres or less.
Perfect, thank you. The exact numbers always elude me. Yes, housing developments of less than 50 units on 10 acres or less will be exempted from Act 250 review, which is with the idea that is going to spur development, make that a little bit easier, give us some breathing room in terms of putting housing units on the ground. So more than a lot of the other future land use categories, which of course we want to be intentional about, this has a real and immediate regulatory effect. Is this will start putting Act 250 exemptions for developers. It won't override local zoning. So, if this is Tier 1B and, there's no Act 250 review for up to 50 units, but you still only say that there can be one unit on there, doesn't override that, but it does start to open up some regulatory easing for development on those areas. Sorry, go ahead.
But I know that we, kind of dropped the ball on the neighborhood development area designation, but this also still comes with some of those benefits.
Mm-hmm.
What is this going to do for commercial properties to future economic development from a commercial property perspective?
Right now, to my knowledge, there is not an immediate regulatory effect for non-residential properties as long as it is Tier 1B.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is a village area, it can only be designated as Tier 1B. It's not a planned growth area. So this is primarily residentially focused.
And is it tied to purely residential, not tourism focused housing? So what I look at this is I see we started to creep up towards the mountain. And does this make it so, hey, that 49 unit condo complex close to the mountain gets to get a fast track for that development?
That is a good question. Right now, the regulations don't articulate a difference between tourist housing or, basically a housing unit is a housing unit is a housing unit in terms of the law right now at the state level. So yes, to answer your question, if we're creeping this pink area up the mountain and someone says, hey, that looks like an attractive spot to put ski condos in, they would benefit from the same deregulation as someone who was trying to put affordable housing there. So I think it's a pretty broad brush in terms of who can benefit from this. But at the same time, it's also a pretty broad brush for who can benefit from this. So,
So now this map is going up South Hill quite a ways, right?
yes. Yes.
Is this maxed out based on where our water and sewer lines are, even just our water lines? Because we can get additional exemptions even if it's just water. Is this like the max we can get?
This is what I would call no. To answer your question, it does not cover every parcel that has either water or sewer in the town. Partially because the sewer line extends all the way up the mountain, and the water line extends further south on Vermont 100 towards that way. But more or less, this is maxing out the sort of residential reasonable development for it. So that's why we extended up South Hills, because there's a sewer line that continues up that way. That sort of plateau
It goes all
area.
the way to the crossroads. You have it going all the way to the crossroads there. There's water and sewer all the way up there.
Just sewer, not water. But yes,
And the same is true of West Hill. It's sewer, not water,
that's right.
because it flows downhill.
There is an area of West Hill, and
And
confirming for
Burkina.
myself, West Hill is the one that goes up the mountain, right?
Yeah.
I clearly don't have the map immediately in front of me.
There's one there.
West Hill, there is a spot there across the road from the reservoir. It's sort of a large parcel that's currently looks like subdivided condos. Thank you. That's so nice. That does not have access to either water or sewer right now. And I believe that is the only area on this map that does not have access to either of those as a public utility. But we've kind of gotten the go-ahead because it has acceptable soils for septic and well water to make that a part of the village area if that's what we want. All this to say as well, and I didn't say this explicitly, but the reason that I'm coming and talking to you all is that I've kind of just taken a unilateral, hey, the land use review board says it should be bigger. This is if I were going to choose where to make it based on the criteria and the infrastructure that exists, this is where I would put it. But it's also kind of y'all's game. And so it would be just want to emphasize that this is meant to be a sort of two-way discussion of where that should go.
And are those steep slopes not included in pink here?
The steeps, there are areas in the pink that are steep slopes. So that's areas in the definition I was using, areas of 15% grade or higher.
Yep.
So there definitely are steep slopes in
Yep.
this area. Obviously, any development that would go into that would have to navigate around slopes from a regulatory standpoint. And we also, probably goes without saying, 15% is where regulations start to kick in. 14% is still a very expensive place to develop. So and that was again part of the motivation for expanding this and also choosing where to expand it. So for instance, one could possibly rationalize going up Freedom Hill a little bit farther. There's still a little bit of a little bit of sewer up the line up there that isn't part of our village area. But it's just all of those lots have so much steep slopes on them that you wouldn't be gaining
And
anything.
I really would argue it's not walkable
Right. Yeah,
at
I
all.
would also
It might be
argue that.
walkable to the school, but it's not walkable to the village.
Mhm.
And how much, it seems like we got some leeway to push things to where, hey, we don't have it right now, but it's close and it could very feasibly get water and sewer, I think of like Pleasant Street Extension that as we come up towards McGinnis Drive and in there.
I think we have the leeway for that,
Yeah.
as long as there is the like absolute bare minimum that we've been given is you have to have soils that you can put a septic system in. So that there is some leeway in that, especially if you can make a case.
So,
May I be recognized within this?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I'm sorry. I didn't know, I had a few questions, Kellen.
Sure.
I'd like to discuss the map here with a few questions. So we're talking about soils that are able for wastewater systems that are tied into sewer systems. So I have a question about Partridge Lane and the road above that where it's not shaded in pink, but I know the sewer line runs up to that portion of Partridge. But why would we exclude those other parcels up there on that area? Right to the west of Town Farm Road.
Yeah.
You have like a green color in between the pink.
You said there's a green color in between the pink up there.
here.
Yeah, I think
It's the island.
Yeah,
It's the
well,
island
talking
surrounded by the
about
pink
that,
there.
right?
Yeah,
So
oh, the island surrounded by the pink. That's
Yeah.
that's a public.
it's in real
Um,
general, I think.
What did you say?
Oh, sorry.
was
This or this?
I think that's Dorsey Park.
This this right here.
section, I think, is referring to.
Oh, I see. The sort of inlet of yellow into that pink in the south end of town. Is that what you're talking about?
Just to the west of Town Farm Road.
I didn't include those is because they're also almost entirely within the steep slopes section.
That's what I thought.
You wouldn't be able to find. It would be very unlikely to be able to find a spot in those parcels that was capable of being benefiting from this sort of exemption from Act 250.
Could we? I guess two questions. It looks like we went 50% increase here. Do we have a number where, like, probably if we increased it by 1%, they'd say, "Hey, you really didn't do anything." Do you have a number that, like, hey, this seems like a reasonable ask? And then, secondly, would we get ourselves in trouble if we said, "Hey, we want to, like, we understand that steep slopes. It kind of allows us to get more area without creeping up South Hill or up Freedom Hill or up West Hill that maybe we don't want to do right away." Is that feasible?
That's a good question. The Land Use Review Board did not give us a specific number, and also I'll emphasize that this is a recommendation of theirs. They have said, "Hey, we are willing to say you can expand this if you want." It is not mandatory. So if we don't want to creep up the mountain or we don't want to go send along these roads, no one's making us do that. Yeah. So if
Well, that's
they,
good to know.
yeah, no one's
So they don't
making
have
us
to
do this.
approve this.
That's
They do have to approve it, but they have not. They in their comments they specified between recommended revisions and required revisions, and they have said, "Hey, we recommend this. You have the space for it. Make it happen if you want." Some of their recommendations are a little stronger than others, but you know, if I think if we came back and said, "Hey, no, this is what we proposed originally is exactly what the town wants. They don't want any more or any less than this." It meets the regulatory framework, and
that's good to know.
yeah. Sorry, I didn't make that
Is
explicit.
This section of South Hill just has some beautiful farm fields and
Mhm.
and I know that's part of 181 to preserve the farming and agriculture.
And so is the pink tier 1B and the rest of our town will be a different tier?
It will be tier 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
legally there may be some tier 3 associated with that, but it seems unlikely that by the time this plan comes into effect that tier 3 will exist. Is my take. So
Because
yes.
I know that has some implications as well.
So, and to emphasize, because we're throwing numbers around in legalese, Tier 1B is the exemption that we've been talking about. That's Act 250 exemptions for residential developments of 50 units or less on 10 or fewer acres. Tier 2 is status quo. So basically, in this discussion, we're kind of carving out an exemption. Everything else will stay the same.
Can I ask a few more questions?
Yeah.
So I apologize. I didn't hear the reasoning behind that Partridge Road area to be left out of the Tier 1B. I'm very familiar with the land there, and I'm trying to understand why it was carved out from that possibility.
The reason it is not, that it was carved out is, according to the data that I have, it's almost entirely within steep slopes, so slopes of more than 15% or more, which would make it, it would be unlikely, in my opinion, to benefit from this designation, so I left it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, another question, I know I may be sliding a little bit off. So when I'm looking at the village and then the village center in the purple, what I'm trying to understand, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I know I'm trying to understand why Pleasant Street, the north and south sides are not considered it, also because of density. But then I was also thinking that, you know, the state provides grants for certain, you know, aged properties that fall within the village center, and there's a lot of older homes there, and I'm wondering if it would benefit the town and the residents along that corridor to increase that size of the village center.
Yeah, that's something we haven't really looked strongly into. This village center designation is unchanged from the current designation that Ludlow has. So we just haven't touched it. My understanding is that the sort of grants and tax credits that are available within the village center designation are primarily focused on commercial property. And so expanding out to simply encompass more residential probably wouldn't buy us that much, and might be another hoop to look through. The village center designations are still retain a good bit of rigor in their qualifications. There's a certain amount of mixed use that needs to be present in them and these sorts of things. So if it's something that we feel strongly about, happy to look into it, but I don't think we would get a lot of benefit from that.
Okay, I appreciate that. I was just trying to see if there would be benefit in doing that for that area.
Kellen, I know we talked about this at regional, the preservation district is exempt, right? We talked about that?
Is exempt from the exemption, or?
Exempt from the 181 Act 250 doesn't come into play stuff. As a growth area.
My understanding is that Act 181 doesn't cover historical districts, anything like that. It would be exempted from Act 250, but Act 181, or this portion of it at least, does not override local control in terms of zoning. Okay. So no one's mandating that you allow 50-unit developments there. It just any development that would go into there.
So if we had a restriction in our historic area, that would take precedent.
Yeah, you could continue to, could continue to have design review or whatever it is that is the restriction there. The only impact that this area has is on the state regulation for Act 250.
Okay, thank you. How, on the Andover's part, what are we adding? Like, where did it stop before and where is it going to now? Trying to figure that out.
On which part, sorry?
Andover Street, 100 north. I mean 100 south.
On 100 south, we've extended out to the west, up the hills a little bit there on some of the side streets, and then we've added a handful of parcels to the south there. Maybe.
So is it going all the way to the transfer station at this point?
You know, I'm not sure where the transfer station is.
Okay.
Because I'm the same way. It's like I don't
this,
know the parcels.
Section. I know the Tony's Garage is where the village becomes the town.
So it looks like that big lot. I think that's Clark Drive.
Yes, that's correct.
Does that make
The
sense?
Clark Drive is the little little spur off to the east that goes through the
Okay.
river corridor. Thank you. Good.
So
good
now it
landmark.
goes to Clark Drive.
That's right.
Hey, Kellen,
So
we had a call the other day with an applicant that's looking to potentially install a water line.
Cool.
If we have plans for an area that's going to be served by a future water line, can we also include that in this map, or does it have to be existing water line?
At this point, no. We
Yeah.
we can extend it if
Okay,
you
that would be
want.
great. Okay.
Yeah, if there's a specific area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along 103. Yeah, near those apartments, they're going to be
Cool.
potential. So if we can do more affordable housing up there where there's already affordable housing.
This is 103 to the east.
Yep,
here?
towards the mountain. Yeah.
Yeah. If you highlight for me where that specifically is, I can make sure that that's
Awesome.
in there. No guarantee, of course, that the exemptions from this particular part of
Yeah.
it kick in before they start their application, but I'm happy to give them a leg up if we can. Yeah,
Awesome.
that'd be great.
Can you go over the areas where we expanded? What I see is South Hill, Up
Yep.
Andover, West Hill, and maybe a little Freedom Hill, but
That's pretty much it. It's basically the areas of expansion are the sort of west side there between and adjacent to West Hill. Sorry, thank you for this. Basically, this sandwich chunk here, this is all new. And then this island up on the plateau is new. And then a tiny little bit of expansion right here. But primarily, yeah, this area off to the west. Thank you. I apologize. I did not have time to get a big map printed before I drove over here.
and I guess if we said, take Freedom Hill for example, not, as Terry said, not super walkable.
Yeah.
If we had in our zoning documents that like walkability and that kind of stuff was important, could a development 25 units, could we require some connection into the existing stuff, or
Yeah. I don't see why not. I'm not.
okay.
Excuse me, you said existing stuff, what is
Existing infrastructure.
So basically, you're saying it's not walkable right now, but if we required that it were walkable to put a development of this kind in there, could we get the best of both worlds where we have a larger village area right now and we have that walkable infrastructure?
Yeah, I guess we give the opportunity to gain the housing we want, but also in a way that it doesn't become isolated. Like I think the a little different, but the overlook, development, housing, great, not connected in any way.
I think it's a really good
And
example.
limiting.
Yeah.
I think there's a, to kind of parry off that is the area behind Pleasant Street. Those larger long parcels that are not connected. I'm assuming there's a steep grade effect on that one too, which is really the bigger issue, I think. But
Yeah.
if that was included and we were able to get that walkable, can you if 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? Can you get around the steep grade and have infrastructure in, or vice versa? How does that the state look at that? Like if you don't have water, you don't have septic, it's not walkable, you don't have steepness, is that just they're not going to approve that, or is that something we can say, hey, that might be a future spot if we can get infrastructure in there, and then the grade is up to the developer to come in and decide if they can build something on the side of it or not?
Yeah, I think we can. So I've been throwing around the phrase steep slopes are eliminating from consideration or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, right?
Doesn't-
There's no provision in Act 181 that says you can't have steep slopes on a parcel and it had to be a part of the Tier 1B area.
Just less attractive.
It
overall.
just less attractive, and I think I think we also want to make sure that our maps are accurately representing where we plan for things to go. And I would say that it is not likely that you would plan for expansion or growth on areas that are of steep slopes, even if it is technically legally permissible to plan there. It just doesn't seem accurate to do so.
So I'd like to jump in on that comment if I could. I'm sorry that I'm remote. I feel like I just need to jump in for a minute. So I'd like to bring up a couple points related to that and to the board to understand. So you guys were just talking about Freedom Hill there. And so that community that runs off of Freedom Hill, Pine Ridge, I believe, Noah, you might know better than me, or Aaron. So you have that shaded in pink. And I'm concerned about those areas for a couple of reasons. I'd just like to bring it up because that southeast side of that road is very steep. And also that community, you know, we're looking at down the road potentially building multi-units in that area, whereas now the lots behind it, which is all part of the same community, they happen to have an HOA there, which they're contributing to a sewer because the sewer line runs partially down that road. I'd like to just have you guys think about that area. You know, am I making any sense to you about that? You know, and then parlaying that back into, you know, that Freedom Hill side. So I'm just bringing up a note, you know, as part of this map. I know, I just wanted to point that out. If that makes any sense, if I'm rambling, please let me know. It's hard for me to be on Zoom.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. To add a little bit of transparency, the reason that those parcels are included is because they have access to both water and sewer, and part of the methodology that I was using was something has both. It should probably be in the village area, but again, not a requirement. Those are in there because they are.
The deeds up on those properties are directly related to an HOA, and I don't know if that would have to get changed by the HOA. You know, if somebody wanted to go in for further development, which they can. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I'd just like to bring that to the attention of the board, that section of the map.
It's good to know.
So I think there's a couple areas that I think are, as it stands right now, walkable in theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. How realistic is that? I think of like going up Gill Terrace there. Super steep, no sidewalk. Freedom Hill, South Hill, West Hill. The areas that I guess I would be a little mindful of would be West Hill. We came up a lot there, and I not what I think we typically think of as village area. Growth area, yeah, but not necessarily tied to this type of housing. And we are we're working our way up South Hill a fair bit into Deerfield Lane, and I see Deerfield Lane as, that's developed. That makes sense, but very quickly,
George's part of it.
yeah. But I think up until the town farm fork there, I guess, with Partridge, with Law Ridge Heights and stuff like that, I do see that as some potential there. And I know we've talked about it here before, but if I forget what that road is below Law Ridge Heights that cuts across kind of parallel to the
Okemo Heights?
is that what it is right there?
Yeah.
So like that, it seems prime that like, oh, you just keep extending that. And I know that road was narrow and there were some issues there, but does it open the opportunity to say for a developer to come in and, hey, you do per our current zoning, the road needs to be widened, you need to do this, but very close proximity, closer than Deerfield Lane would be for that
Deerfield Lane, I mean,
development.
What is it closer to proximity to what?
to the village.
Proximity to the village. Yeah.
It's just up from the railroad tracks.
And I guess I don't know exactly the slope, but that's an area where, I think pushing it more down into that area versus going too far up. I think Andover makes sense. that seems like a natural area for development, especially Clark Drive area.
Yeah, and I think you run into a lot of the same trade-offs in that area as you do in the rest of the village, right? Which is that the flat areas in Ludlow are the ones that are in the floodplain. And the way to get out of that is to go up into the hills, which runs into steep slopes, or to go onto the plateau, which runs into the area that we've just been talking about, where you probably don't want to urban sprawl your way through through South Hill, right? The reason that continue to emphasize the reason that the area of South Hill that is in the village area, as I proposed it right now, is because there's municipal sewer up there, right? So Ludlow has a sort of sunk cost investment in growth up that way. It is designated for growth, maybe not from a planning perspective currently, but from an infrastructural perspective currently. And so when we're talking about can we convince developers to extend our infrastructure in this way and that way, and I know we're mostly talking about sidewalks when we're talking about that, but if we have infrastructure that's in place and it's already developed, I would say that it's developed into 2-acre lots, but in a way that is clearly designated and it's clearly designated for residential use. You may as well get your money's worth out of that sewer and densify it a little bit and see what you can get up there. That's my rationale for it.
Yeah, it's really not walkable though either. I mean, the people that walk the loop are like everyday walkers, but walking all the way to town too.
Yeah, I mean, I've walked that road before. It's steep. It's really steep,
Oh, yeah?
and then
Cool.
I did all the road erosion inventories for Ludlow last year.
Okay.
And so it's steep. It's paved. You've got the constriction under the railroad track, and it would take some real work to make that a deeply pedestrian attractive area.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but it could be done. Routing through Okemo Heights and getting a little bit of snaking through. You could add a multi-use path. You could slide some things off of the road. But yeah, it is not all of these areas that we've added or that I've added in here for expansion. You run into a lot of these sort of bottlenecks, and a lot of those are pedestrian bottlenecks, and they kind of are related to steep hills on roads that already exist and underpasses underneath of the railroad, which is hard to get around. But
So I guess one question is, and if we had in our zoning, if we specifically think about South Hill, where we're getting into more rural, more agriculture, if we had limitations on PUDs and density and things like that, would that take precedent if it was a residential housing project? So I guess I think of Act 250 and it stops a lot of projects from even getting off the ground because it's so expensive. It's so much work. I wonder what if we said all that area south, hey, we're going to do it. Is there anything that we have preventing a 50-unit apartment building going on the corner of South Hill and Town Farm Road?
Sure, it's your local zoning, right?
Okay.
All this will do is loosen the Act 250 requirements for it. You can still zone to the density that you want and the design that you want with the setbacks that you want, these sorts of things. You could do all sorts of fun and sort of novel things in your zoning to try and encourage both residential development and the type of development that you want, like adding density bonuses for walkability and density bonuses for, designating certain percentages of the lot as open in perpetuity or these sorts of things, and maybe get it so that you can get best of both worlds. But that would all be a local zoning thing. All this is doing is giving us the opportunity to start asking those sorts of questions.
Yeah.
So we
That
could.
was a good question. And I was literally just going to bring that up because I believe, and I don't know about that intersection generally where we're expanding that pink area on South Hill and Town Farm. But I know generally in the other area, many years ago, it was subdivided up. But then they changed the zoning up there. And I don't know, and Aaron, maybe you could clarify this, but is that 80,000 square foot zoning up there?
80,000.
2 acres.
2 acre zoning. Most town residential, it's 2.75 acre minimum lot size.
Okay. So, I mean, and that's a good point, Noah, and where enforcement can come with, zoning. It doesn't mean, and that could be as the future holds what it holds. Currently zoning could restrict what actually happens in these areas until time deems that it could change and it may be necessary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, Matt makes a really good point with that. Like a lot of our zoning in this extended area, most of these lot sizes aren't big enough even for the multifamily based on our zoning. So I don't think the only time I've seen Act 250 permits up there were for subdivisions, but I don't think much of it, there's room to subdivide it even more. So,
area.
yeah, on South Hill, yeah.
The ground zoning for
When
sure.
it's glare ice, you're gonna have 50 people stuck in that ditch upside down. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
When it's glare ice,
I'm
you're not
glad
gonna
I asked that question because it really brings up a good point. And what Aaron was saying is that this can be controlled through town zoning, right?
Yeah, which I heard Kellen say several times.
Which makes it really important on, when the village and the town merge. And then we were talking about last week about, possibly rezoning with the boundary markers. Like, I think this all comes into play, in a whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think to also zoom out a little bit is I think we've been talking about this a lot in terms of specific regulation and what this essentially gets the town and these sorts of things. It's also important to know that this is a planning exercise as much as it is a regulatory exercise. And I think if we're looking at, we're kind of asking ourselves the question, is Ludlow going to continue to have development in the village or in the town? We can kind of answer the question. It's going to be, yeah, there's going to be development somewhere. Is it going to be in the river corridor flood zone? We'd prefer that it isn't. Is it going to be on steep slopes? We'd prefer that it isn't. Is it going to be in like the deep rural areas and subdividing into 3 acre lots and breaking up farmland? Again, we'd prefer that it isn't. So if we've taken all of those restrictions, we're kind of asking ourselves, well, where is growth going to happen? Where is development going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen places that are outside of this pink area that aren't the top of the mountain that meet all of those criteria. And that's also kind of the question is, we're talking about this in terms of planning. Right now, yeah, if we open up South Hill for tier 1 areas and we're getting a little bit of exemption from Act 250, that's not going to do anything. It doesn't change anything because of the way that the town is zoned, the way that these sorts of things are. But that doesn't have to be the case. And if we are thinking not reactively but proactively about where Ludlow wants to see its development, Act 250, Act 21, this sort of exemption area is going to give us a little bit of a kickstart to incentivize development of the places that we want it to be. And then we also have to follow through in the town plan and the town zoning and these sorts of things as well to actually get those where we want. So all that to say is, you're right. South Hill Prep on 2.75 acre lots probably not going to get you, a large amount of increased density, but the zoning doesn't have to be that way forever. Same thing with we're asking, okay, are ski condos going to benefit from this exemption as well? Yes, but they don't have to be ski condos forever. It's like these sorts of things. This is intended to be a long-term look at it as well. So.
Yeah, I think if you look at the existing plan, and then you look at what's proposed, like you said, there's just not a lot of favorable area that you can increase to. So if we're in a situation where we're trying to encourage more housing and encourage areas, we have to look at what first, I think, is what's the closest areas to the town, to the village.
Yeah.
And then you have to explore those. They may not be with infrastructure now. They may not have, gradual, easy slopes to work on, but proximity is going to be the key for future growth. It's got to be what's close downtown. So, with zoning right now, we can make our restrictions on certain parcels that really don't meet that criteria. But I think we got to look at where we can expand and where we can make it favorable for some of these developments to come in, because I think it's needed. And I think proximity is going to be the key, and which parcels make the most sense to allow this exemption to happen on.
It's
I
something.
agree with you.
Is there a reason we didn't go? I feel like I remember this coming up, but going up Commonwealth Avenue.
It's steep. It's super steep.
But is it steeper than South Hill?
The road itself is not, but the land is.
The lands.
Yeah.
So I did look at that, and the reason I didn't continue it up Commonwealth is by the time that you get to a parcel of any size or with any degree of flat land, you're
Miles away.
Yeah, you're literally miles away. Whereas South Hill, you can kind of cheat to the side a little bit, not a ton, but you know, a little
Because
bit.
I think of that little development there.
Yeah, up there to the right.
Yeah, that first one you get to.
Oh, I looked at that as well. That's almost entirely in the steep slopes area. They've managed to scrape in, single family homes on each of those lots, but not a ton of room for large subdivisions or other multifamily development.
Is that on Commonwealth?
Off of Commonwealth.
What is I don't remember the name of the road off of Commonwealth off the top of my head, but it's the subdivision north of town.
Old Village?
Yeah. Yeah.
I also remember the select board not being very happy about going to Commonwealth.
For the village.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So I want to bring your attention to right up Mountain Road, past the trestle. If you're heading up, you got Little Lake on your left. That goes down. It looks like where you've expanded into Okemo Acres Road there, which also goes up into West Hill. My comment would be, so above that pink shaded area where the blue and red lots are, is there any reason why we wouldn't incorporate those into the pink area? Because those could be developed very well. I mean, they're already flat areas. I know there are actually parking lots and that sort of thing, but I'm just wondering, would that be something, in a future plan that we want to consider? Because those could be prime areas. I know parking is crucial for the resort, but I was just throwing that out there and want to see what you guys think.
I know one thing, we leased the blue lot, but there's never been mention of leasing the red lot. So I'm gonna venture to say that may be owned by Okemo.
Okemo and stuff.
Yeah.
I think, Matt, to your point, I don't think any development in the general parking lot or red lot would happen that would be residential. I think anything there would be,
Commercial.
or it would be mountain focused, which
Operations.
I would say we may want to keep Act 250 review for that.
Okay, I'm just trying to and broaden our vision on a lot of things. That's all. Why we're looking at the map.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Regulatorily, there's nothing preventing us from sending village area designation up that side of the mountain. But I, in terms of it being a planning exercise, it does ask the question of, do you want to merge the mountain area and the village area into one?
I guess one thing that, we talk about housing and residential housing, the lack of that. If you did have more development on the mountain, it could open up the market for more residential in the village where we want that.
So I know Tier 1B, like, we will not take over, because we're not Tier 1A. Tier 1A, you'd have to take over the Act 250 permits. Tier 1B, as a planner, I don't see any issue. If there's water lines running up the mountain right now, and that's primarily where a lot of developers are going to provide additional housing opportunities, I think that's a great opportunity for us to
I thought
add
there
more.
were water lines.
I'm sorry,
Sewer lines, yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys go to page right here, flip over 1, 2, 3, you'll see that Kellen included a map that has an overlay of the water and sewer lines. So it looks like blue is water, red is sewer. Okay. So if it's only sewer but not water, Can we?
Yeah, so yes, Terry's right. There's not water that runs up there.
Okay.
It's public.
Okay.
Yeah,
so partially.
It's
It's
It's all
there's a
wells.
lot of there's a lot of like communal wells up there, is my understanding.
Mhm.
Partially because I think the town doesn't want to pay to pump the water
Yeah.
up the
Yeah.
mountain. Sewer runs downhill, water doesn't. Well, it does, but not the way you want. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, regulatorily, nothing preventing us from adding those to the village areas, right? So it meets the regulations as much as any of the other places that we're talking about. It's again, I think that's just that's a planning exercise. Is does the town want to encourage, like, I guess, heavy development on the side of the mountain? If the answer is yes, or well, it already is up there, like, why not continue it? Yeah, we can certainly add that in. I don't have a problem with it.
I have another question. So let's say we go with this map, and I'm just being hypothetical. How often can it be changed? You know, you come to a realization about something. Is it easier to remedy than it isn't? I'm just trying to understand the severity of the decision of saying yes to this stuff.
It's not on the drop of a hat that it can be revised. You can, the plan can be revised, and if there's a point where you all have a deep buyer's regret about an exemption somewhere, we could make that happen with some time. Otherwise, it would follow on the same revision sort of pattern as the regional plan itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And I guess going back to the parking lot thing for Okemo, if they said, hey, we want to do employee housing here,
Mhm.
that would, boom, exempt. If they said, hey, we want to build a hotel here, that is not exempt.
Right.
That is
Hotels
still,
are not.
that's still
Still
going
considered.
through that process.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where I was leading as far as affordable housing is concerned, because those are pretty flat areas, right? We're not generally concerned with, I mean, it's already been leveled in a way, right? You still gotta get up Mountain Road. I mean, regardless, however you go up West Hill or Mountain Road, you're still going up a slope to get there. I'm just thinking about, you know, easing the development restrictions for those areas, that's all.
Where there's already a ton of development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just my thought. I'm not saying, you know, you gotta agree. I'm just trying to, you know, we're talking about planning here, so.
And they say, hey, we're gonna put employee housing and take up half one of the parking lots. Through that process, we would still have review and
Yeah.
the, hey, you need to find another place to put your people, you know, more parking somewhere else. We still have that opportunity in the traditional zoning side of
I
things.
don't know exactly how, and maybe this is a conversation for the next agenda item, but I don't know exactly how you all have parking requirements set up for the mountain right now. If those lots are currently fulfilling parking minimums or parking requirements for existing development on the mountain and they wanted to develop there, then yes, you would be able to say, hey, you need to find another parking lot and designate that in some way. If the parking lots are considered independent developments with parking as its use case, then you would be kind of hard pressed to mandate that they make another parking lot for the mountain somewhere else. Legally, I mean, I think there's the soft power of the Planning Commission's bully pulpit here, right? Of saying, if you're taking the parking lot, you got to find parking somewhere else. But I don't want to get too far into specifics. I don't want to give you the carte blanche promise that you can, if they take parking away here, you can make them give it to you somewhere else. But in general, as we were saying, local regulations still apply. So that would still be a negotiation between the town, its regulations, and the developer.
The other thing we're wary of on South Hill is on West Hill and Okemo is that the overdevelopment led to the flooding problem that we had, where half the mountain collapsed down into the parking lot. I mean, down into the town.
Yeah, I mean, I think overdevelopment on the side of a mountain is something to be generally concerned about. I think I'm not familiar with the particular flood that you're talking about, but I also know that what we've been looking at up in Lebanon, for instance, is like modern stormwater techniques that are required for modern developments do a much better job of mitigating the stormwater runoff, and you tend to get a net zero change in the flooding effect from those sorts of
Yeah, so it's important
things.
to tie that in.
Yeah.
For sure.
Are there other questions I can answer while we're talking about this? It sounds, so to kind of summarize what I'm hearing from you all, sounds like there's a little bit of nervousness about heading up the sides of all of the hills and the walkability there. Sounds maybe we constrict a little bit from the farthest most flung areas that are included in the village area currently. And it sounds like maybe swap the West Hill, going up the mountain on West Hill for going up the mountain on Mountain Road alongside those parking lots. Does that sound like a good summary of what we've just talked about?
Yeah.
In terms of specifics for a revision, I'm happy to send the revised map to you all.
Yeah, I guess what are you looking for tonight? Just kind of a direction and update things, or
Adds and redactions, or
yeah.
Yeah, if there are specific things that the planning, well, I mean, it's a gradient, and it depends on how strong your feedback is, I guess. What I've got here is great. This gives me a lot to work with. I can go and turn this into a map. Technically, it's the document of the Regional Planning Commission, not of this Planning Commission. So I don't need any sort of legal sign off from you all that says we want this. If you all feel so strongly that you want to make a resolution about something, feel free, and certainly take that under advisement. But like I said, we want this to work for you all. So based on what you all have said, this gives me a lot to make some revisions and send you all another draft.
I feel better with our zoning taking precedent there. So it doesn't give carte blanche if we have existing restrictions. Great. If we don't, cool. It allows the development to move forward faster than it would. Matt, did you have something?
So I agree with you on that. I think, the zoning regulations are gonna be a really primary focus, but pertaining to this map, I mean, we're looking at potential development down the road. That's what this whole thing is. And I'm just trying to understand. So, our goal is we're looking at this, revising it. Do we as a board want to make any revisions or suggestions for any changes? Like, we're looking to do this. Do we need more time? Do you want to have another, talk amongst us as a board and talk about these specific areas, that sort of thing? I'm not looking to delay anything. I just want to make sure we're collaborating and making good decisions on what we want to do related to, the town in these pink areas. That's really what I wanted to say.
Yeah, what's the timeline on this?
Great question. Do you all meet twice a month or once a month?
Once
a month. So, I don't remember the exact date. I believe it's the date that I have in my head is by the end of June. We need to move on to the next step, which is the formal application and adoption of the plan.
Next one would be June 16th.
And how about public hearings for this map? Is that?
Yep, there will be another set of public hearings, and I can send you those dates in writing of when those public hearings will be as a part of the application and as part of the adoption process. So you have
Excuse me 1 second. Are you referring to strictly Ludlow public hearings or regional public hearings?
Well, it sounds like this is like a regional
Yeah.
document.
So it's
So-
regional hearings.
this would be a regional hearing.
Yeah, we don't have any.
We have one at our next board meeting for Mount Ascutney, right? I believe the 26th is the first public hearing for the regional plan because we swapped out our board meeting.
That's
It was
right.
supposed to be on
Forgotten about
Memorial Day.
Yeah, so that's the 26th
So
of
that's
this month.
Yep.
Yep.
So that's public if anybody.
I think what would be great to see is our zoning districts on this of like,
Yeah.
okay, what is this? you know, these areas that we've kind of been talking about, what's the potential in this area? You know, not that development is necessarily bad, but what is the loophole on South Hill that we're concerned about? Or is there one? Is there one on Freedom Hill, on West Hill? Because I think if we allow, if we can make it easier to build housing, yes, you're going to have some housing that's not necessarily what we're looking for, but we can't just pick and choose what we have. And I think giving that incentive, making it more doable, and I guess more possible without spending a fortune in the Act 250 side of things, I think is a positive.
I think a big thing with developers, and from my experience, is, you know, they want to see ease of development first. Our zoning is going to trump everything.
Mm-hmm.
But if they come and say, "Hey, Aaron, give me a map of your zoning here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, give me this map,"
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Okay, where's Act 250? Where do I don't have to deal with Act 250?" And they say these spots, and you know, say it's even more expanded. Well, I don't have to deal with Act 250 in any of these areas. That's great. Let me start the process and have a pre-con meeting, sit down with you guys, and go over what my ideas are and what would be a good area there. But they're starting the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's already getting them on the hook to say, we want to look at Ludlow for something. When they see super restrictive and Act 250 everywhere, they go, let's move to the next town.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to see the mindset of the developer saying, hey, what's easy, you know, what's going to make the first step happen to get me to have the conversations? Because once they have the conversations, they're already invested at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the ability to sit there and negotiate and talk to them about where we would be favorable, where we definitely don't want it. And, you know, like you said, you know, South Hill isn't meeting the criteria right now.
Mm-hmm.
But in a few years, maybe something happens, maybe it makes sense. Who knows where it's at? But at least if we include it now, it's making Ludlow look like it has a little more favorable development area, and then we control it through zoning. You know, that's kind of my 2 cents, because, you know, if you really limit this map, you know, it de-incentivizes it to even have this first sit down and say, hey, you know, we have this multifamily project. Where's a good spot for us?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I think if we look at where the developments happened here in the past 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
it's on the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, multi-million single-family home developments, and it's where the money's there to go through the process, do the Act 250, do that kind of stuff, which inherently is not, the numbers aren't going to make sense for the residential housing side of things.
And I'll just throw out as well that I think most of the ways that zoning has been a part of this discussion tonight has been in a sort of de-incentivizing sort of role, right? Of, hey, we don't want this here, we don't want that there. It's also can be a very powerful incentivizing tool,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if, you know, between the tier 1B area and your zoning area, you say, this is the kind of development we want to see, and this is where we want to see it, like, and that's a relatively large area with some flexibility, like you do have a good bit of power to sort of influence and attract those sorts of things. If it's development needs to happen at the edges of where we're doing these things and in edge cases, and you have to find loopholes and these sorts of things, that becomes harder. But yeah, I think your point of if you want development, you should make it look attractive seems like a good one.
And I guess, yeah, that's a good way of, hey, we don't want this creep up South Hill.
Yeah.
And instead of being overly restrictive there, you loosen things up in the areas where we do want it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you guys want to do? I mean, you want to discuss this? Or, you know, I'm all for like trying to get things done and moving forward, but I also don't want to make snap decisions either.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like we got to get something done by this, you know, somebody said end of June, I believe.
Yeah, that's when we'll start to adopt these sorts of things. Yeah, I think that's true. I think also no, I'll be your packet back.
Matt, I'll just also say this is probably like the third or fourth time, if not maybe fifth time that Mount Ascutney Regional Commission has presented this to this board.
Okay.
So they've done a lot of the outreach, and they're always available to discuss further if you'd like. But yeah, we're kind of at the point of critical time to move forward.
And I'll open that my email inbox is very open, and I think even in this discussion tonight, it's been, oh, you missed this thing on this parcel. I don't know Ludlow that well. I've spent time here, but like you all know this is better than anybody. And so if you're saying, I actually don't think that this parcel is as steep as you think it is, like tell me, and I'll be happy to adjust off of that. This doesn't need to be a open meeting law minutes published discussion. You feel free to email me if you want my emails on the Mount Ascutney website.
So you're having your first public hearing end of May, and then you guys are adopting this end of June, or
What time is
looking
that
to do that.
on the 26th?
I don't actually know off the top of my head. Aaron was the one that brought up that meeting existed. Do you know what time it is? I've left all of my electronic devices in the back row. Sorry.
Looks like it's at noon.
Okay, so same as regional meetings.
That's right. You'd said it took the place of the regional meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's Memorial Day, the day before.
Yeah, and
So
because
I guess if you guys finalize this in June and we said, hey, you didn't listen to us. We didn't want this area to be in here. We still have that opportunity to do that, or is this kind of our
yeah, you have the opportunity to do that. I'd say the sooner you can give me that feedback, the better, and so the more that we can integrate it into the actual process. But in terms of pull shoots of last resort, there's plenty of space for the town to come in and say we don't actually agree with this. Yeah. And that can be done via comment to the LURB or the Land Use Review Board or the over the public hearings or an email or a resolution or
So I guess we'll kind of take what we've discussed tonight, tweak things a little bit, share that with us, and then we can provide some feedback there. Is there anything that folks have like, hey, really don't want to see this or do want to see that?
I was just gonna say the same thing, I just don't know, I think, for whatever reason, you can call me whatever you wish, but that area that I was talking about in the beginning of our meeting, it does, so we're looking at development areas, we're looking at controlling this through district wise. So you got Partridge Road, between Plumley and that little island of light yellow green that's there. I think that should just be encapsulated. As far as development potential down the road, if, to have a little island in there, but saying that you could build all around it kind of is confusing to me.
I don't
And then
disagree.
the only other thing that I bring up, again, is just going back up to Freedom Hill on the Pine Ridge development. It's like, why are we only looking at 1/4 of that development when below Pine Ridge is what it is? I mean, steep too. Should we consider that entire development or just remove that little portion? I mean, I'm just looking at it from a development perspective where somebody can do whatever they want below you, but they can't do that above you. That's a neighborhood. Like I'm just trying to say, do we, incorporate the entire neighborhood or just exit out?
Well, it looks like the sewer doesn't go all the way up either, the water or sewer. So there's no water or sewer up there, Matt, so it wouldn't qualify for the village area designation.
Okay.
But it sounds like we can expand a little bit.
we can expand
And if you're gonna do it, like, you got it 2 properties down, that's pretty darn easy to, I guess I would agree with Matt there. I think Plumley kind of makes sense, maybe pull back a little bit on South Hill, the Freedom Hill area. And again, our zoning takes precedent, so.
And I would jump on this, going from adding on is that'll, those parcels behind, the train tracks on Pleasant Street from Okemo Heights to, I think, Soapstone. I know we don't have roads there, we don't have access, we don't have hill, but that is a close proximity area behind Trex. I think that could be easily an affordable housing location at some point saying, hey, listen, I know it's by the tracks. We're not going to put luxury homes here, but we could do affordable housing back here if we can make access. So I would definitely say, hey, listen, let's put those larger parcels in there and give a developer an opportunity to say, hey, we can put, 50 affordable housing units here, right next to the tracks and give people in the village.
And I guess that, hey, the few $100,000 you save on Act 250, you can put into the site work for the steepness.
Yeah.
And connect it.
I agree with that. I think it's underestimated land that, could be used for what you just said.
Great. So I'll take away from this fewer village area tentacles, make it a little bit more compact, fill in the gaps that are there, even if it's not necessarily the case that they'll be the most developable, and add in those 2 parking lots on Mountain Road. That's kind of what I'm hearing from you all.
Yeah. And I think there's that green spot right in kind of off the railroad tracks, that's Dorsey Park.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's required to be green, but
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I can move it. Like I said, this was a first
Just
draft
fair.
of this, so
yeah, I think
Yeah.
tighten up. That's a very succinct read of this discussion.
So I have a question. I don't know if this is related to future planning and expansion, and I hope it's not related to this map. Has there been any thought or discussion about increasing wastewater facilities?
Maxing it out either. Not.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
We're like 50-60% of capacity. But there is relocation and all that stuff being discussed from flood damage anyways. But we got a ways to go before we start maxing that out.
Okay. Stuff that comes up in my head.
Yeah, and I don't know where we're at with water, honestly. Okay. Well, thank you.
yeah, thanks, y'all.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
stick
thank
around
you
for
very
y'all
much.
zoning conversation if you want, but
Yeah, do you have the document?
do
Did she share it with you?
yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I'm not as familiar with this document as Martha is, but I'm happy to be part of the conversation if that's helpful.
Yeah, so to be clear, here to give comments and help the discussion. I don't have a presentation or
Do you
anything.
guys want to continue with
I
that?
guess, Aaron, I'm curious how my understanding of how this works. Martha kind of runs down, goes through her logic, parses what her discussion, makes the updates. We can't we may not be at the point for those changes to get made, but we could at least maybe walk through some of these conversation points and maybe be
Who's taking
familiarized with
notes
it.
For Martha, Kellen, are you doing that?
Yes.
Okay,
Um,
so 221.
yeah, so I guess if we look at the loose ends, 221, single unit dwelling, septic permit language tweak.
Page 9.
So, and I came across this, and I've heard this comment before of like, we require you to purchase your septic permit and allocation before you submit the application.
Absolutely.
Why though?
Why are you required to have an approved septic drawing before you issue a building permit?
Or
Come from the state.
or you need to include it with the application.
Yes.
So if I said, hey, I want to take this piece of land, I want to go for a variance, I want to do X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
It's a crapshoot. I may or may not get it. And now we're asking someone to say, hey, go pony up and spend this money, and you're not going to get it back.
Well, I think you were talking about like if it's a conditional use, if it's a development review board thing. So that if it's a big enough project, there's leeway to make it a condition of approval
Okay.
in the development review board decisions.
So this is over counter. It's going to be approved.
Mhm.
There's no hesitation behind it.
I guess I don't really understand what you're asking.
Well, I guess we didn't comment. We can't, and it sounds like we can't require this as part of the application for a zoning permit. Wastewater and potable water supply systems, the municipality may adopt bylaws that either prohibit the initiation of construction under a zoning permit unless the wastewater and potable water supply permit is issued under or establish an application process for a zoning or subdivision permit under which an application may submit a permit
so that's, yeah.
application for municipal review. Okay, so I was under the impression this was reading as, hey, you want to go apply for it, you may or may not get it, you have to pony that up, and it seemed like a undue hurdle.
Yeah, no,
Um,
for larger projects, if it's like, for instance, Division of Fire Safety, those are super expensive permits to get. We just make it a condition of approval
Yep.
of the DRB. That way you don't have to spend the $10,000-$20,000 up front
Yep.
until you know you're approved from the town.
Understood.
So,
Yeah, issuing the building permit without wastewater.
yeah.
And they commence construction and
Yeah.
then wastewater's not granted. Now they have reason to come back to the town and say, hey,
Yeah.
you gave us the building permit, this
Yeah.
is on you.
Yeah.
And that's something we don't want.
Yep. And I'll give you an example. I just got a building application for a very large home that was approved for 9 bedrooms and like a maximum occupancy of 14 people, right? I looked at the architectural drawings and this house could sleep easily 50 people. So I'm asking them to revise their wastewater permit or update the drawings to accommodate the appropriate amount of people, because these are the type of applications, the complex applications we're getting in this
Mhm.
town right now. So,
Yeah, and if there's a loophole, some people
they'll
wanna
use
exploit it.
Yep.
Understood.
Yeah.
So what language tweak do we need?
Well, I think it's her.
This might also be better just for
Yeah, this may be a Martha understanding, but what is it? Proof that when required, I guess it's 221 3. She had language in there. The way it's written right now we can't do that, I guess.
So she's corrected it, so we
221.
can do that.
Yeah, her underlined is her notes going in, correct? Yeah, so she's saying proof that when required. Before, I don't think she added that, right?
Yeah.
So before it wasn't showing that, so she's basically giving it when we require it, which I think is okay in that sense.
That's good.
I'm also confused how it jumps from 221 to 221.5. I see that throughout our bylaw. That's one thing I would ask you guys to just really renumber and like maybe put a header, because like a lot of our pages and our bylaws don't correlate with what's in the table of contents. For instance, I'll give another example: signage in the town. Our permitted signs were still underneath prohibited signs. There's no section header for that, so we just added that in. I just need her to add it to the table of contents. Just things like that.
That's great. I am happy to go through and do that. I know Martha and I have been collaborating a good bit where
Awesome.
she's good at wording and I'm good
Yeah.
at Microsoft Word. So
What section is
Section signs is 540. Let me see. 1 second. $540. So she's going to be adding an extra section 540.5 permitted signs, because that was underneath 540.4 prohibited signs this entire time, when the language very clearly states what's allowed.
Um, 222 issuance of a permit on section 5. She had a comment. The administrative officer shall file a copy of a permit issued for land development in the flood hazard area with the Secretary of Agency of Environmental Conservation and Regional Planning within 10 days. This is optional. The application has to be sent, but the permit doesn't need to be.
I'll just say that if anything's undergoing flood hazard review, especially that requires a public hearing, the floodplain managers automatically get noticed, and because I'm required to get a comment letter from them anyways. So less administrative tasks would be ideal. Until I get an online permit system.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems more logistics. 260.2, resolve any remaining concerns with additional site plan standards for public uses section.
260.2.
So can I ask you guys a question?
Mhm.
What we just went over, 221 and 222, like we're saying that's okay?
Her changes are okay.
Her changes are good.
Okay, I just want to understand. Thank you.
And we may come across stuff that we need Martha to be here for to really dive into.
Yeah, so I think what we ran into last week with the 260.2 was the comments, I wrote down vague on these notes here. Is that what we're referring back to?
I think that had to do with the.
Protect privacy, joining property owners, additional yard space, that sort of thing?
No, I think we're more talking about the additional site plan
For public uses.
for public uses at the bottom of that section. That's all in red.
She wanted us to look at, she added that 10%. She highlighted it. So everything else, that's what we were discussing. That was the edit made since we last discussed.
Mhm.
How do you guys feel about that number?
What do you know off the top of your head what setbacks are?
It depends on the district.
Like
It depends
village.
so in the village district, it ranges from like 8 to 15 feet. So an additional buffer would be 10%, so 1.5 feet if it's 15.
26.
Yeah, so on a 50-foot
so
setback,
bottom.
you're looking at 5 feet, increase of 5 feet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of small, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know there's been the numbers percentage. Sometimes it feels like we're just pulling it out of thin air.
As we are.
Because we are. Yeah, so I guess
Did she just put 10% in as just a filler number for us to negotiate right now and figure out what we want to do? Because,
Shall not increase by more than 10%.
do we have any setbacks that are like 500 feet?
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe, I not that I've run into yet. Yeah.
So is 50 kind of like a
I'd say 55 is the standard throughout town residential, and I believe the Aquifer district. Everything else is really like 8 to 15 feet.
I mean, at 8 feet, 10% is nothing.
yeah. So I guess is it
It's a foot.
Should
not
be
even a foot.
20% then? Because then
yeah is it
just
too limiting?
That's what I'm saying. I think 10% is too small when you're looking at essentially a deterrent for sound and everything else. I think a foot's not going to do anything.
Mhm.
That's what you're trying to do.
Sorry, can I ask, when they say, when this heading is for public uses, which public uses are being envisioned in that? Okay.
Where's our definitions?
Okay. Just gonna say, if it's gonna be 10%, you might as well not even have this,
Yeah.
this in here. Like,
And this is the DRB giving the DRB some sort of a limiting factor.
Yeah, I would say since it's not more than, and they're going to make that decision.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You could do 50%. Because if you have an 8 foot set, I mean, we're talking about 4 feet. If you're talking 50 feet, you're talking 25 feet. 25 feet on a parcel that has a 50-foot setback. It's not a huge amount of footage. So
Yeah.
Let's do 50%.
I think 50% would make sense, and then we can limit it to 20% or 10%, whatever we need to do to make it work. But let's not limit ourselves on, especially those small setbacks. That's where you're going to have most of the issues is on the small setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I like that.
50% it sounds like. And then
sure.
can we just make sure we add a section header to that as well? maybe.
To which portion, sorry?
The one, it's right above 260.3. So additional site plan standards for public uses.
Got it.
So we'll make that 50% and then add just, you're gonna have to update all the headers, I think, or maybe a subsection A, 1, 2, 3, 4. You could just add number 5 instead of a whole new section on that.
As we're going through this, where are these sections noted in other areas? Is that ordinances? And I guess if we're going through and updating this, how do we make sure we're not in the same situation
She's just talking about how we have.
with another document down the road?
The ordinances, I haven't seen our ordinance reference any zoning.
This will be mostly
The
for you when
ordinance
you're
is-
citing
yeah.
an issue, you'll be citing these. Yeah.
So I have a question. So on the item below that, where we're talking about just doing 50%, the density size or height of non-residential buildings may be increased or decreased as needed to ensure compatibility with established patterns of land use in the district and to ensure orderly growth and development in the community. Who decides that?
I think that this is your guiding document for the DRB to make that decision. So it's their determination of how they see that. Is that
It gives them some latitude.
Should we throw in there with also approval of the planning commission?
no?
No, we don't approve anything. We just propose.
Um. 270.2, is that right?
We're asking if we want to delete it.
Yeah, number 4, a plat showing the number of dwelling units, commercial units, and commercial areas that could be permitted if the land were subdivided within the district in strict conformance with the requirements of zoning and subdivision regulations in the district. Last summer, Planning Commission agreed that it's an odd requirement. Remove? Question mark? Are you familiar with this, Aaron?
I'm not, but I would agree that that is a little odd language. And if it's the board's favor, then
Do you remember
because
some
this is like
context on that?
an if it could.
Trying to.
It's just to kind of give the board an idea of what could happen if it's kind of it's a weird thing. I mean,
Yeah.
anything could happen.
And so this is for planned unit developments.
That could be permitted. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a little funky.
Because usually you just have a site plan table that shows what was approved,
Mm-hmm.
how many like bedrooms it has, and like then that's your guiding light. And then if you deviate from that, then you have to come in and amend
Yeah.
the permit. So I think showing what could be developed doesn't.
You have a 100-acre lot and
Yeah.
you're subdividing 5 acres each for housing. You could do a heck of a lot with that other stuff.
Yeah.
Why are we?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
let's get rid of it.
Okay. Section 420, see suggested flood control area definition. So that flood control definition, which she's suggesting put into the in the definitions, flood control area, land that is set aside, regulated or managed to store, convey, or slow floodwaters in order to reduce flooding risks to people, property, and infrastructure downstream. I think it makes sense. The only thing I would say would be downstream and upstream, because those
Okay,
Like
so she's just
the-
asking us to add this definition.
yeah,
And you
Yep.
just want to add and
Upstream.
upstream.
and
That's a
upstream.
good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
But I think that definition makes sense.
Where did she get that definition? Caitlin, do you have any idea where she may have gotten it?
Probably from other, she probably from Reading or West Windsor, knowing Martha.
That looks boilerplate.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
because she
that's
used to
just-
be the planning director at West Windsor.
Okay.
Planning and the zoning, not before she was the town administrator.
District dimensional standards, we need to revisit and make additional changes to Article 4, district dimensional standards and use.
Did you miss 430, the Lakes District, the comment that she made there?
We're
Uh,
It will be the next page from where you just at.
Yeah, it's not on our list, so it's probably something we
Oh.
already decided.
yeah, I was just going off the list.
Yeah, I think we're waiting on this stuff to invite people from these districts to come in and give us their opinions.
I mean, that's kind of a long one. I don't know if we want
That's a
Martha
really long
here
one, I
to,
know, because that's going
do
through
that
every
one.
single one of them.
yeah.
Can I jump back a step?
Yeah.
So go back to section 420. I keep reading this over and over and over again. And I mean, to me, it doesn't make a difference. You want to put upstream in there, but I don't think it's necessary because you're looking at land that's set aside and regulated. So when you look at point A on a map, right? And you can put point A further upstream, that land is, so it's really everything that's downstream anyway.
Well,
No
so we had some folks from the River Project last year, and they were discussing where, you know, we dropped the grade down at the Little League field, 10 feet, and all of a sudden that water can spread out there. It helps out the downstream stuff, but it also helps out upstream because all of a sudden it doesn't back up and start pushing upstream.
Affecting those properties.
So that was something that I learned there, and we took a field trip down to Brattleboro,
Okay.
check out their
Appreciate
stuff
that.
there. So
I don't want to leave it alone. Thank
yeah.
you.
520.3 could use some additional clarification. This is dwelling on lots, principal use on lots. Is there an upper limit of how many there can be? Who determines this? Under what review procedure?
Where the heck is it?
Page 57.
57. So as it reads right now, there shall be only one residential building and accessory dwelling and its accessory structures on a lot unless otherwise approved under plan unit development. There may be more than one principal use on a lot in the RC1, RC2 districts. What's that?
I guess my issue with this, it says only one residential building, but here we are updating the amount of dwelling units. Like we're supposed to be treating up to 4 dwelling units the same as a single family dwelling unit if it's on town water and sewer, or we have to treat duplexes the same as single family units. So this entire section, I think, is just a little
Well, this section is just saying that they only
Yeah.
get one building.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not saying you can't have any number of units. It's just saying that you can't have 2 duplexes on a single lot without
Yeah.
planning board approval or planning commission approval.
DRB.
Or DRB in this case, yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
I guess, and this goes back to the ADU stuff, is we don't have much control over that anymore. But if you want to add a third, then very quickly you could turn it to a PUD.
So to Martha's comment there, who determines this and under what review procedure? Are we setting this as going to ZA and then going to a DRB, or?
I feel like it would fall under a PUD and whatever governs that.
Wouldn't it fall under zoning?
Yeah, the planned unit development zoning process, I would think.
But it would be in that section, there's a whole section for that.
Yeah.
I think this is just making sure people don't just go out and have like sheds all over their property or something. It's like, this is what I tell people, what can I do with my property? I tell them you can have a residence, an accessory dwelling unit, and a accessory structure, basically. And this is just summarizing it. So now as we're talking about it, this makes more sense.
So what if I got maybe farm classification's different, but
Mhm.
I want to go put up another barn.
Mhm.
Does that limit it?
It depends on the zoning district.
So do you have, and this is a question for you, the accessory structures, which is they're saying structures on a lot. Is there a limit to accessory structures on a lot?
I usually interpret it just as one, but again, it depends on the zoning district.
And the barn's not a residential building, so, you know.
You could imagine a residential lot that has a duplex, an ADU off the back of it, and then a garage and also a shed, and that would all be covered under this as it's written.
And you can see a single family with, a garage, maybe a mother-in-law suite somewhere, and then a pole barn. But you're getting into, I can see a couple of those. Is how many structures are going to be permitted at that point? Just put a pole barn, a shed. I mean, I'm assuming, it's
Just type of
not
barn.
restricted, or it is restricted in how many accessory structures.
No, it's not a residential building.
It just depends on.
Yeah.
This paragraph does not limit it, but it might be limited in other places.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It might be limited in zoning. Then, PUs.
So is what Martha's asking, is it who determines whether or not there may be more than one principal use on a lot within the residential commercial and residential commercial 2 districts? Is that what she's asking about? Who may we all have the same information. I don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
So what's an example of that?
That might be if you have a retail store on the first floor and an apartment above it. It is both a residential and a commercial space, so it has 2 uses.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So is that determined by your zoning district?
I see one district.
Is it? I guess
I think that the barn is
in the village,
losing it now. I'm not
we
really
have a lot.
understanding where we're
Yeah.
going with this. So
Maybe we should just
yeah, I think
keep that
you're
one
right.
for her.
I need a little more clarification.
Yeah. And I guess with all of these, unless there's something, is there anything else in this list that we wanted to tackle before we had Martha here?
The lots in 2 zoning districts, that's a big one.
No.
Because are we gonna do it all over again? Are we gonna keep it the way it is? $57 at the bottom.
So I think, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think after last meeting, sorry, I'm getting an echo. I think after last meeting, we were leaning towards doing this because we still have to deal with the merger. And then down the road, looking at snapping the boundary lines as the parcel boundaries.
Doing it based on structure makes the most sense. What I don't know, something that's like in the village but also goes up South Hill, a big parcel like that where, okay, if you're in the, a little pieces in the village, all of a sudden you're allowed to do all this stuff. But if it's tied to where that building is going, I feel like that makes the most sense for that.
I agree.
Because you could have a really big piece of property that mostly is in rural area, or even aquifer, something like that. And, that's the intent of the zoning district is for development in that area. So that's what I
Which
would.
she says in B here.
Yeah.
Not to open too big of a can of worms here.
Just trying to re-summarize that. I thought that's what we had already agreed on.
Yeah. go ahead.
Not to open too big of a can of worms here, but what are the implications for this in terms of planned unit developments? So a way I've seen other places do this is, like if you have planned unit development that's partially in the rural area and partially in the aquifer and partially in like the village center, you can use the density calculations for each portion of the parcel that's in each of the different zoning areas in order to increase your density in the area that you're going to put the planned unit development. So like if you were going to say, for instance, like, again, this parcel doesn't exist, but hypothetical parcel, like there's a corner of it within like the core part of the village, but it sprawls out into different areas. Like, do you want that to all be considered rural, even though there's an area of the village that is being taken up by a corner of this parcel that you can't develop in the same way that you would like development to happen in the village, if that makes sense?
It's like a transfer of development rights. The way
Yeah.
I'm seeing it is so that's a common development practice where you purchase a parcel, has higher zoning allowances than another one. But I don't know if Ludlow's ever really done a transfer of development rights. That might be a little more complex.
My basic understanding was, okay, if you wanted to put a structure on the village piece,
Yeah.
you got village zoning. If you wanted to put it on the R2 district, that is R2 zoning. Depending on where the building is sited would be the zoning.
So,
I think that's
But with a
true.
PUD,
So-
there's more than one building.
I mean, have we done an overlay on the two and seen how many properties are gonna be impacted by dual zoning or dual,
Let's ask our GIS expert. Kellen, how
When it goes to the
long,
map, I
it
think.
might only be a
how hard would that be for you to like figure out what parcels are in more than one zoning district and then to snap? So one of the things we discussed last week was kind of if your property is getting rezoned to send out a notice of
Mhm.
sorts and do it properly that way. But how hard? I know you're a GIS whiz, so how hard would it be for you to?
Oh, from a technical perspective?
Yeah.
That'd be like an hour. It'd be
So-
fine. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
my thought is, I can't imagine there's too many properties, so it may just be a handful that we have to consider. And in
Yeah.
that situation, we just consider on a property by property basis and say, hey, look at this parcel. This is well within the village. Let's
Yeah.
not talk about rural. Let's make it all village,
Mhm.
or however it wants to be. But I think if you're trying to blanket the whole thing, I don't think there's that many parcels that are going to have a dual zoning issue.
There's not a ton. I'd say probably ballpark, maybe like 20 of them. 20,
Yeah.
Maybe 30.
Matt, we're speaking your language
So-
over here.
So we could sit right through in a quick meeting and just go through parcel by parcel and say yes, no, yes.
Well, I
yes,
think the
no.
problem there is
And
if
then
we're
notify the
gonna,
owners.
if we're gonna redraw zoning maps, it's not a simple, okay, cool, yes.
Yeah, I
It
know.
needs to go out
It's gonna
to.
go like.
No, that's what I'm saying, but we have to come with that consensus and say, yes, this makes the most sense for our panel to make that
Yeah.
parcel this. Okay, let's notify the owner, this is what our intent is, see if they agree or not and what their issues are. And I think that's a pretty straightforward, clean way to figure out how to go around this. And it would be much more straightforward in the future for the next, generation than to have all these parcels that have multiple, and you're going through this process of, what are we gaining? So I don't know, that's my thought.
I agree in theory. I think that the question comes up that that's the intention right now, but if that doesn't happen, you still have all of these parcels that are in two zoning districts currently. So if you don't manage to do it the way that you think that you're going to, it is not resolved within the zoning bylaw. The other thing is, if later on, I mean, you would be snapping the zoning districts to the parcels as they exist today, but in the event where there's a merger of parcels or these or some developer comes in and buys up a whole bunch of them and these sorts of things, you still should have a condition that says, if a parcel exists in this way, this is how it should be resolved. I agree that it makes the most sense to, okay, let's minimize this as much as we can. There's no need to plan for with this as our intent for how parcels of zoning should interact. But if there's an ambiguity, there should be a way to resolve it in some way.
And I guess my thought too is it's also an incentivizing tool too. Your parcel that has dual uses, maybe one's more restricted, one's not, and it's just based on, maybe it doesn't maybe that parcel is rural, but it's so much of it is in the village, it should just be considered village.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's more beneficial to whoever's gonna come in, and it makes more sense for the town in that situation. So I guess seeing the map would kind of give us more of a understanding of what parcels would fit, what wouldn't, and maybe it doesn't make sense, but it's hard to talk about it if we don't know which ones we're talking about, so.
So it sounds like put a pin in that and I can get you a map.
That would be great.
Yeah, because I think what
Sorry to
what
talk
is
about
that
something.
next one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be one that's really we can't make
Yeah.
that. We have to keep this too because it just doesn't make sense. But then maybe it comes together. I don't know.
So I think you make a great point, and I just want to make one comment that when we're reading line B, we're looking at structures and not identifying what a good use of the property could be. It's just what it was or what somebody did there already. You know what I mean? If you think about it, try to expand that. So let's just say it's in a district and it's got 2 paddocks and a barn, but it's in good zoning for development. But now you're saying you can't do it because of that, right? So I think it may be beneficial to do exactly what you're saying. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that I've talked to some circles rereading this, it also kind of looks like the answer to this is disincentivizes people to subdivide large lots that are in multiple zoning. And that seems like a good solution. So sorry for opening that up and then talking us around it.
I feel like I'm going around in circles on this, but I think it's obviously important because it's like, I think the ultimate game plan was just doing what we were talking about. But in the interim, what kind of language do you guys want to see?
I think having that map will give us a good idea of what are the issues, because we can sit here and say, hey, this theoretical piece of land that goes from the village all the way into the aquifer and stretches 200 acres, what should that be? Let's see what it actually looks like and
See if it's actually an issue or not.
yeah, where do we want to, how do we want to go? I think for the rest of this stuff,
most of these might be gimmies. Some of them might be very difficult.
Yeah.
We don't know until we see it.
Yeah, the next one says we have to discuss it with Jason.
yeah, I think the rest of these, let's wait
Cool.
until Martha's back and we can really
Okay.
dive into it and be
Fair enough.
have some clear guidance there. The other pieces for Martha, East Montpelier Mobile Home Park, Reading performance standards. I think again would probably be best served if Martha was here, unless anyone has anything specific they want to bring up on those points. Okay. Better Connections grant updates. Aaron, you got some
Yeah.
updates for us?
I was supposed to have a call with the state on Monday, but that got rescheduled till tomorrow afternoon. I got some preliminary handouts from the SE group that I'll review with you tomorrow and review with Noah tomorrow and with the state during my call. So I'll have hopefully a lot more updates next meeting.
And Matt and Ed, are you familiar with the Better Connections grant?
I am through Aaron.
Great.
She's kind of updating me a little bit about that. I think it's a great thing, and I'm pumped we got it. It's gonna be awesome.
Okay. Any other business?
I just wanna ask, so what do you think our game plan is? Are we gonna wait to meet again until next month, or what do you guys wanna do? What do you feel is appropriate at this time?
Yeah, so I think we'll
We have the June 15th.
yeah, we have the June 15th meeting with select board trustees, water commissioners, electric light department. That will kind of help us on the municipal plan stuff, and then we'll have that, and then we'll meet the following. Is it the following day? Following day. I assume Martha will be back. We'll be able to take a look at Kellen's updated map.
I should be. Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking that when we have time, just to, going back to the map, we could all just take what we have and make some comments and just share it with each other so everybody knows what we're thinking and try to offer some movement on that, right? You know, so it's, if they need this earlier or what I just don't want to restrict us in what we need to do because, but you guys, you can let me know, Kellen, too, so.
Yeah, I mean, if we do, is it something you need more direction before our next meeting?
I don't think in a formal board sense. I'm happy to I'll draft something up relatively quickly and I can send it over to Aaron and then we can BCC everyone to make sure we're in compliance with open meeting and then I can get individual comments. Because again, it doesn't need to be a motion by the planning board, or planning commission, but you all your opinion matters. So I can just take revisions if they come. It doesn't need to be at the next formal meeting.
Okay.
Great.
I'm in agreement with that.
Any other items for